One of the things that we really believe in is backing it up with data. If you're going to make these claims, it better be based off of something. And this video doesn't seem to do a whole lot of backing up.
This particular video is about foreclosures. He's out there to say that the world's ending, the real estate world.
You know, a lot of videos out there, a lot of news sources, and we've talked about this in several videos. They sensationalize everything. And one of the things that we really believe in is backing it up with data. If you're going to make these claims, it better be based off of something. And this video doesn't seem to do a whole lot of backing up.
Well, he tries, and not everything he's saying is irrelevant. But the thing is, he's not giving the whole picture.
Sure.
That's my problem with it. Bad news can become self-fulfilling prophecy.
It can. Yes, it can.
And when that's all you hear without seeing the reality of the situation, we don't need that.
Here we go. This is from the Reventure Consulting. I'll put a link to his video in the description for you guys.
Banks are preparing to unleash a devastating wave of foreclosures that's going to make the 2022 housing crash even worse. And in particular, folks, you got to understand, these foreclosures, they've been building up over the last 2 years during the pandemic. There was a foreclosure moratorium. There was an eviction moratorium. We had millions of defaults where banks were not allowed to foreclose. Well, now they are allowed to foreclose and cause home prices to crash in certain cities, in certain neighborhoods.
Okay, up to this point, what he's saying is completely true.
It is.
Totally.
You know, there's some sensationalized words in there. For instance, devastating amount of foreclosures. Okay, it's not devastating, all right?
Don't bullshit me.
It's going to go up. Is the market going to go further down with prices? 100% yes. But
okay, I see what you're saying, yes. And using the word devastating is overdoing it just a bit. But he's right about the fact that foreclosures were ticking up right at the time the pandemic hit. And with the moratoriums, those got put on hold, and yes, they are coming back online. But the funny thing is, you know, the foreclosures that we're seeing where there's notices out, almost all of them are from those houses that were in moratorium, all right? And most people, I mean, if you take a look now, I mean, what might have been in foreclosure, and think about this. Nationwide, the prices have gone up drastically in the last 2 years, a lot. So a lot of these people that were facing foreclosure then are not necessarily facing it now, even with the moratorium, because they've got more equity in their homes.
Yep.
All right, they can actually get out with actually probably making a little bit of money.
We're very rich.
So this idea of, quote, devastating numbers, it's just not real.
yeah.
That are most exposed. And one thing that has me convinced that this foreclosure wave is going to be way worse than people expect is because there's so many bad loans out there on the US housing market right now. Like if we look over the last 70 years at the average down payment that a home buyer puts down, we can see it's been in consistent decline. In the 50s, they were putting over 35% down. In the 70s, they were putting over 25% down. Well, today, they're only putting about 17% down.
I don't know where he's pulling this information from.
Well, this is the hard thing. Okay, so a lot of this video focuses on the idea of bad loans. Unfortunately, the only real metric he uses to define what a bad loan is that people are putting down smaller down payments than they once were. Now, we spent a lot of time in preparation for this trying to find some data out there. And we have access to a lot of great data when it comes to real estate. We couldn't find anything outside of some random Google search information. And it's not like he's far off with his data, but it's not like it's from some great, incredible source either.
Let me stop there. We're going to do a video next week on the history of mortgages because being able to finance your house is everything. People being buyers or sellers all depend on the world of financing to make transactions happen, period. And a lot of us don't really understand, I'm talking agents as well, don't really understanding, you know, how mortgages really work, the type of products that are available out there.
Don't call me stupid.
The mortgage world is great at creating new products to keep the market moving. You know, even back, you know, in the early 80s, I mean, we got to the point where we were doing nothing but seller financing, all right, because nobody could afford an 18% mortgage and sellers were carrying back for 10%. So, you know, my problem with this portion right here was when he's talking about putting 38% down and 25% down in the 70s, where is he coming up with?
Well, this piece right here actually inspired us to go out and create a spreadsheet to show some of this information to you guys. This is just a little Excel spreadsheet, and the first portion of it here, rows 4 through 10, are your typical inputs if you were to make a mortgage calculation in Excel or on any mortgage calculator. And then down below that, rows 12 through 14, we just talk about your total payment. So not just your loan and your mortgage, but also the taxes and insurance on top of that payment. They call that PITI. And that's what you use to know what you're actually spending on your house. And then below that, we wanted to show what your rent is and what the differences are. And we've prepared this with the assumption of a 5% down payment, a 10% down payment, and a 20% down payment from the 1950s up to the 2010s. And we're changing the median house value and the median household income during those decades to show you really how it all plays out.
We also changed the interest rate that was relevant at the time that it was going.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
That's really important.
Thank you, that is very important.
This information we did glean from the actual year. So it's not the 50s and the 60s, it's from 1950
yeah.
and from 1960. And things will change each year. They'll change each month, as we all know. But the data that's pulled here is from that year specifically. So you can see how the interest rates have changed through time and people's incomes and the prices of homes, etc. The mortgage industry looks for your housing costs, meaning your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, known as PITI, that shouldn't be more than 28% of your household income. Debt has changed over the years. I mean, it used to be a figure of total debt of 38%. I've seen that in some areas now, 50%. I mean, that's getting a little out of line. And for total debt, meaning your house payment, car payments, credit cards, everything.
They call it your debt to income ratio. What are your total monthly debt payments for credit cards, cars, student loans, mortgages, all that stuff wrapped into monthly debt payments versus your monthly income. They
Correct.
Call it the debt income ratio.
Over the decades, the important part, the bottom line here, where it says PITI percentage of income, is with a 5% down payment or a 10% down payment or a 20% down payment in those years with a median priced house and the median family income. What was that figure? In 1950, it was basically 14.5%. 60, 15.4%. In 1970, excuse me, I'm old, I gotta put my glasses on.
Yeah, it's 15.6%.
Okay, excuse me. Yeah, I can see that now. All right, 1970, we went to 16.5%. Now, here's the caveat. 1980, this is when interest rates went through the roof. It got up to 41%.
Yeah, and on 1980, yes, we know it actually almost got up to 19% with the highest interest rates we found throughout the decade there. However, in 1980 itself, they were at 15%.
Well, 16.6% was the interest rate.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong line. Yes, you are correct. I'm looking at the wrong line. It was 16.6%.
16.6%.
Yes, correct.
All right. So that's why so many people were carrying mortgages for the buyers. All right, because people couldn't do 16% or 18%. So most they were offering typically, and I lived through this time period actually. So, we're talking 10 to 12% mortgages. But it got to the point where it was totally unaffordable at 41% down on the bottom line. But then we go 1990, it was, 19%. Year 2000, it was almost 17%. And then in 2010, it was up to 25.6%. Only in 1 year throughout all of these years, 1980 was the income ratio to the point where the debt to income did not work out.
The reason why this is so important, what really matters is how much do you make and how much do you pay on your debts each month. That debt to income ratio is what's everything. If you can't afford to pay your debts because your income is too low, that's when you start to default on your loans. That's when foreclosures would start to go up. And so you need to see a drastic increase in what your debt to income ratio would be for that to be true.
Our big 2007 through 2012 issue, or where the mortgage industry was providing mortgages that were called stated income. Your dog could have gotten $1 million mortgage if you just said, he had an income.
That's honest.
And that was the big problem. So foreclosures did go up throughout the roof there because during this time period, the debt to income ratios were almost infinite.
Well, they were all a lie, essentially, because people would artificially inflate their income so that they could cover whatever the debt payment was showing, right? So those ratios almost became meaningless during that time with stated income loans. Just to show you the quick difference between these, this was the 20% chart. Let's go to the 10% down payment chart, okay? notice that they do change, that row 20, the PIT percent of income does change, but not drastically so. We'll use 1950, okay? At a 20% down payment, it's 14.5%. A 10% down payment, it goes up to 16%.
And let's look at 5.
And 5%, it goes to 17%.
Remember, the figure that we're looking at is 28% here. So even on 5%, the only time we got close to 28% other than 1980 was in 2010. Once World War II was over and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were providing mortgages for houses, I mean, it got to the point in the 70s, most people were doing FHA mortgages, all right? And you could get 3%, 5%, 10% down FHA mortgages. So wherever he's coming up with people are putting down 25% throughout the 70s is just...
Where does he get this stuff?
Be sure to check out part 2 of this video where we go into detail about foreclosures specifically here in Arizona. We'll have a chart from the Cromford Report which gives a detailed look about what foreclosures looks like here in Arizona month by month back in the day, what they look like today, and where they're likely to go in the future. See you then.